I am at MR Unlimited shop. It's been a while since I've been over here. Mario's working on something new, so let's go check it out, see what he's got in store for us. What's up, bud?
What's happening?
What are you working on?
So this project's a 05 TRX 450 that we're doing a 2018 CRF450 in. So
what was the last year they made the TRX450 frame?
14.
Right, and this is an 05, so was it one of the first years they made it?
Yeah, so 04 and 5 were the same, and then 6 to 14 were the same. This is a little different in the fact of other people are making kits to go in 06 and newer. But this kid had an 05, he had a full roller, and you know, the frame needed some repair, but in the overall it was good, and he didn't want to go buy a frame, so we decided, plus I've never put one of these modern CRFs in the older chassis, so that's what we're doing.
The CRF 2018 450 motor.
Yes.
That's a EFI engine?
It's EFI electric start.
E-start, nice. And what do you have to do to actually get it to bolt up? Is there a kit, or do you got to custom fab some stuff?
So I pretty much have made all the components except for like the water pump cover, which in this particular case I've gotten from JB Racing, but there's a couple people that make them. 17 to 20, the CRF, 20 is kind of a shifty year, but the CRF 450 RS, that year span from 17 to 20 are primarily the same engine. The fuel pump is round, the engine's the same, the exhaust comes out kind of the front right-hand side of the engine. Mm-hmm. From 20 and a half or 21 to current, the fuel pump is square, and the exhaust pipe comes up the center of the head. So they virtually go in the same. Some of the spacers are a little different, but
it's an interesting color he went with.
Yeah, so this guy's a veteran. And
motocrosser or woods guy?
Motocross.
Okay.
He rode motocross dirt bike before he went, when he was a kid, before he went into the Army. And then now he's out and he likes the four-wheeler stuff and wanted to go that direction. So he had this, he bought it from someone, he rode it twice, the engine grenaded. Someone recommended me, we talked, and I didn't really push him, but I told him, look, this is the best way to go about it. It's going to make the thing more valuable down the road. And
sure.
So that's the direction we took it. The engine.
Yeah, is that our transplant engine there?
Yeah, so he brought me the 2018 bike, but the engine, it didn't sound all that great. So we went through the whole thing, wanted to make sure it was right. I rebuilt the crankshaft with a Carrillo rod, has a new piston in it. Valves, valve springs, just kind of like the normal stuff, but just make sure that everything is right in there.
So he brought you an entire donor bike?
Yes.
So you have all the wiring harness, throttle body,
fuel pump, all
intake,
that stuff.
All that stuff that you need to make this complete.
Correct.
It's all clean, shiny, looks good. Now tell us a little bit about that motor. What kind of numbers can we expect out of that?
Well, they claim from the factory that it's probably in the like 52-ish range. And that's probably where it's going to be. Because we didn't do anything crazy with it. We just made sure it was right. Everything was right. The crank was, rebuilt and correct, transmission, so on and so forth. It's got a new clutch in it. So that's primarily what it is. So it's going to be in that range. And to get those numbers out of the quad engine, you have to put a lot of money in it, and your reliability is in the toilet.
Sure.
These things have really been good, and we haven't had any issues. Transmissions are good. I mean, can you have a problem? Yeah, sure. But in the overall, it's considerably better to invest into this project than it is to spend 8 to 10 grand in a 450 engine, the quad engine. So.
previously on our channel here, we did a Yamaha hybrid. Is this just as popular?
Yeah, this is popular. There's more people. The kits are a little bit more accessible for these. I don't sell a kit, and the reason I don't is because there's a lot of variation. I mean, this one is different because it's 0405, but I make them for the 06 and newer. But there's always something going on. The frame maybe tweaked a little bit, not junk, but it's just a little bit tweaked. Something doesn't fit. I just like to install it myself in case I got to make any tweaks, any changes. This in particular too, another part of it is the other people that are offering kits to go into the 06 and newer, the tabs on the frame they're pretty weak, and they make an adapter to attach the lower engine mount to the frame.
Using those tabs.
Using the stock tab.
Sure.
But I like getting rid of that. I've had nothing but problems with that, and I like putting this crossbar with these two tabs. It strengthens the lower cradle. And
so that's something you welded in yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now show us what else you might have welded on this end.
So we did a lot of different, I put a gusset kit from Textera Tech on it.
I was checking out the X. That's kind of a nice little...
Pieces like this and here, up inside of here. The bottom of the frame had some issues. These plates underneath, I made and put in there.
Yeah, they look good.
And I put the pieces in for the foot peg. They don't come in the kit. Relocated the radiator back and down about an inch. So just trying to lower the center of gravity.
Oh, it wasn't for exhaust clearance or anything?
No, just trying to put weight down lower into the front. And then there's more gussets up in here.
That was part of the kit, though.
That was part of the kit. With this 05, now like the 06 and up, I use the upper frame mounts for the engine and just put my engine mounts. But on this 05, this mount is too far in. And when, if you're trying to use it, it hits the cam cover. So that had to get removed. I completely made a new one of the upper frame mount and re-welded it in.
Yes, you had a similar issue with the Yamaha.
Yeah, the Yamaha, that was the whole left side, and we had to do some grinding and things like that. And this is another reason why I believe that nobody's making a kit for an 0405 is because you just can't put it in without really getting invasive with frame stuff. Every time I do one of these, I progressively get, do things better. I change the tank design a little bit. I change this mount design and just trying to make it better every time and learning along the way. And so this one here is got the latest of what I'm trying to do and should be pretty good.
That's why a lot of racers go to MR Unlimited. Mario, what is the first step? What are you trying to accomplish for this video?
Well, first thing is, we really appreciate everybody with the views, but please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and we're trying to push, and I know it's been a while, but we're really trying to get back in the swing of things, and going to do a few parts on this and hopefully get into some other projects.
Yeah, we're close to 1,000 subscribers, so thanks everybody for watching. We see an engine, we see a subframe and a regular frame. I've taken some shots of all the parts, and we'll discuss those going on. But what's the goal for today? You just want to get the motor in?
So goal for today is we're going to get engine in it, subframe, probably get the swing arm, partly in, and maybe the air box, air boot, throttle body.
I was eyeballing that over there. You want to show us some of these parts? The air box looks pretty trick. Did you build that?
Yes. So first off, with the engine parts,
I'll come over here.
I made all the engine parts, machined the spacers, battery box. This is the lower mount for the gas tank.
You did all that on your CNC equipment?
This I did.
Yeah, they're very clean.
The plasma table.
Very clean.
Had to take the stock 0405 fender mounts and modify them.
Sure.
This radiator is an aftermarket radiator, but I make a fan shroud and fan kit for 04 all the way to 14, so you can utilize the fan. Now, the charging system in these engines is not the best. but this fan doesn't draw as much. So you can get away for the most part with the charging system that's on it. But I do recommend that, maybe a battery tender and keep the battery up to snuff.
Now, why is it all enclosed? How come you don't have some more airflow for the back where the fan is?
Well, the fan you're pulling it from the outside through the fan. If you didn't have a fan shroud and you just had the fan right on, you're only going to pull the center section. I know it appears that
it's blocking.
It would be blocking.
But it would be more blow-by, you think?
Yeah, this is capturing it and pulling that hot air through the fan and out instead of it letting it bypass.
Sure.
So that's a nice upgrade for most of these builds. Some people want the fan, some don't.
Hey, the gas tank's just like me. I've been tested too. You built that?
So yeah, I built this gas tank. Fuel pump goes into the bottom of it. This I design. Everybody does something a little different, but my interpretation or how I do it is I built this sump tank that attaches to the bottom of it, and then the fuel pump goes into that. And the reason for that is the fuel is always around the pump. So no matter how this thing is sloshing around, it's trapping fuel around that fuel inlet.
In that lowest area.
Yep.
That was bolted to the plastic CRF tank?
Yes. Well, no, they use a titanium gas tank. So this was bolted up in the face of it.
I like how you hid your coil up there, too.
I put the coil, too, because the wiring, the way the wiring harness lays out, it plugs into there. Plus, it's another thing that when you pick the gas tank, you just unplug the two wires in the fuel line and just get it out of your way.
Easy for service.
Yeah. So, yeah, I did do this. There's quite a bit of hours that go into this.
That's a lot of welding. If you know aluminum welding, that takes a long time to do a gas tank.
So we did that. I could have used maybe not the 04, 05, but like the 06 and up airbox. This bell comes from JB Racing, and it's designed to go into the 06 and up airbox. But I custom make one, and the reason is I put the angle, the way the air boot comes off the throttle body, I like to put the angle in there. It's just nice and free-flowing. The air filter fits in nice. The air temperature sensor is incorporated into the airbox. Obviously, this is open. There's no back or roof to it. For motocross, you don't need it.
He'll be changing filters regularly.
You'll be changing filters. So, everybody uses the LTR style air boot.
Okay. And there's an interesting color swing arm over here.
Yeah.
Tell us about the color combo here, because it's a tan frame, subframe, and a dark green
swing arm, and I believe the A-arms are black, and some other pieces are black. The guy that owns this is an Army veteran, and he wanted these colors, and it's what he wants, and it's pretty cool to be
Go Army.
Everybody likes something different,
yeah,
and it's definitely a different combination. Everybody always wants to do fluorescent green and blue and reds and all that stuff. This is definitely a different deal.
Well, I got to be honest. If people don't like this video or subscribe to the channel, they don't support the troops.
Yeah.
So they have to like the video.
You do have to support the troops.
Absolutely.
It's the best. So, yeah, I've gone through the shocks. I've serviced these. He's going to upgrade the rear shock at some point.
That's a stalker, right?
This is a stalker.
Yep.
Along with the linkage. But, we're trying to stay within a certain budget at this point. So, this stuff can be upgraded. The main pieces of this, the engine and all that needs to be right. You need to have a really good foundation, and then he can make some changes and, in the future.
Very cool. Stock ECU, stock throttle body.
Yes. Yep. Nothing done there because the engine's stock. We could have maybe, had this sent out and made some changes, but right now he's going to have all the power he needs until he can get into shape and get back into the swing of things. So this is going to be a really nice package for quite a while, but we can always upgrade stuff.
What can you tell us about the exhaust? I'm not familiar with that brand.
So DASA is really big in the motocross ATV world. They do cross country as well. But they make essentially a plug-and-play kit for the 06 and up CRF. In this case, I took the ATV head pipe and just altered it to make it work. That way he didn't have to buy the whole system. He bought the muffler due to the old one had some issues, but we were able to salvage everything else.
That's it? That seems really short.
No, the other piece is here.
Oh, okay. There is a longer piece.
Yeah, I just didn't remove it out of that yet.
So I see some welds there where you had to just change angles.
Yes, I had to cut some piece out of here, and then I removed this to change clocking.
Oh, I see. Okay. Very cool. So what's the first thing you're going to do? Is there a skid plate you got to put on or anything like that? First?
No. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to put the engine into it. We're going to put the lower engine mount bolt into it, put the front engine mounts in it. That'll give us some stability. We'll leave everything fairly loose, but some stability. We'll do the uppers, same thing, and then we'll come in, we'll put the swing arm, put the pivot bolt in, and for now, I'm just going to snug everything up. I'm going to come back and torque everything, and I'm going to torque everything to what the ATV specs are. So you'd have to look in the service manual to get those numbers, but that's how I'm going to approach it. Once we do that, then we'll put the subframe in.
All right, let's get to it.
Before we get to it, and I install this, I wanted to point out these spacers that go in the engine case are something that is machined, that I do. And again, those kits that you can buy from other people, they come with it too. The bolt diameter for the pivot bolt is different. So this is a must.
Is it larger or smaller on the dirt bike?
The dirt bike is smaller. I want to say, you know.
So the diameter of the ATV pivot bolt is larger diameter.
Yes.
Got it. Another 2 inches. Down towards me. Right. Oh, there. Okay. Can't quite see the other side.
Oh, it's crooked inside. There you go.
All right.
Okay.
Engaged. It's in. Time for a beer?
Yeah, sure.
What'd you do? Test fit everything before powder coat and all that?
Yeah, for sure. Did all the fab work, make sure everything fit in there good. Usually I like to put it to the point of which it's running. But I knew this ran, so I wasn't concerned with it. So I got everything fitted, made sure there was no clearance issues, and then sent everything to powder. This is that water pump cover I was talking about.
Yeah, I was just checking that out. JB Racing, that's a nice piece.
The stock one, this outlet is facing, it's actually branches off, but it goes more like 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock. The outlet of the radiator, the bottom outlet, comes over here. So this makes more sense.
Ah, yes.
You wouldn't want to go like that. Out the inside of these bushings just a little bit. So I'm just gonna stick the pivot bolt in there right now to help us just get everything else lined up. Not worried about any grease or anything on it right now because
it's coming back off.
Yeah.
Swing arm on. Yeah.
Here, so. So just putting this upper right engine mount in, I have it bent. I used to do it a little differently, but I have it bent in now to give it clearance so that the exhaust pipe doesn't have any issues. All right, we're gonna install the subframe, but before that, The engine is still loose in here. I'm going to get the subframe, then we're going to put the swing arm in. I'm doing that only because I can attach the swing arm with like a bungee cord or something to the subframe to keep it up.
To hold it up, sure.
So it's not just sitting on the ground. So that's what we're after. And then once the swing arm is in, then I can go and torque everything. Anytime you do a project like this, anything where you got to watch powder coat buildup if it's thick. Behind these engine mounts, I looked at it and it was all right. But you got to be careful because if there's I'm going to remove the powder coat here because when the foot peg goes on, if you leave that powder coat and you think that bolt is tight, it will flex and crack the powder coat, which then will leave the bolt loose, which then you can strip the threads or break it. So that's very critical, that point. The other thing I want to make mention is I took the powder coat out of the inside lower tab, and that was due because once everything is bolted together, you will have good ground connection.
Ah, true. I thought you were going towards tolerances, but yeah, I forgot about the grounding too.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes tolerance is an issue, but if you don't have this engine grounded to the frame, further along, when we get further along in this and I start doing electrical, you have to make sure that the system is like a big circle. So battery to engine, battery to frame, frame to engine. So everything is a big circle. And if you don't have that powder coat, it will give you problems.
Yeah, nothing will have you chasing gremlins like a grounding issue.
Yeah. So I just, while I was thinking about it, I want to make sure I spoke about that. So we're going to continue here and get this subframe in.
Do you need me to hold while you're...
Possibly. I thought that.
Again, tolerances are real tight in these notches because of powder coating, huh?
Yeah. Now, this is not too bad, but one thing I did do and should have explained in the beginning also is that I went through and cleaned all the threaded holes.
They should have been plugged during powder coat too.
And they were. And they did a very good job of doing that. But you still need to check because the last thing you want to do is break a bolt off in one of these holes, and then you got to go and try to get it out. And if you can't get it out and you got to weld something to it, you don't want to do that with fresh powder coat. So.
Sure. Man, now that you got the subframe on there, I'm digging the color combo.
You know, it's different, but yes, it's definitely growing on me. You know, I think he jumped into doing the green swing arm kind of before other things, but I think that would have been maybe nice black, or maybe do the A-arms green. I don't know.
Sure.
But something to...
Can we just get a contrast here? I'm going to grab that real quick if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, we're getting ready to install it anyway. I'm just getting everything.
I want to look at a contrast here. He's got that green and tan, very military. Yeah, very military colors. Go Army.
Yeah.
And you said his fenders are black as well?
Yeah, the plastic's black. A-arms are black. Steering post is black. So, you know, a little, it's definitely different. It's definitely going to be different. So, be cool for sure. All right, so I'm going to get the, pull the swing arm bolt out, pivot bolt. We'll get the swing arm up inside of there. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on this.
Hot Tua on it? I had to.
I know you did.
It's never too soon for that.
Well, no.
I'm so in love with you. You got me down again.
This is where a little bit too you get the troublesome where the powder coat, the width of the frame changes slightly.
Is that in? Yeah. Stock swing arm, yes?
Yes. It's out of a 06 too. That's a good point to talk about. So 04, 05 are about an inch shorter, and the linkages are different. Shock length is slightly different, linkage is different, swing arm's different. So when you go to an 06 and up, it's longer, good for motocross. In this particular case, which I found kind of strange, but it all works dimensionally, is that they used one piece of the linkage is aftermarket, and then the dog bone, they refer it to, is the long one, which would be an 0405. But normally on a setup like this, you use the shorter one. I think the reason they did that is the shock is the 0405 shock.
Okay.
So they use that. But dimensionally, when I put this all together for mock-up, I made sure that this would travel the 11, we had 11 inches of wheel travel. And, that's what this is all designed off of.
And that's better for motocross.
Anytime you have a long travel setup, whether it's cross country or motocross, they usually are basing everything off about 11 inches of wheel travel, anywhere between 10 and a half and 11 inches. So that's what I used. I had the axle in here with a tire and so on and so forth. And I made sure that this would travel the 11 inches with no issues of the shock, linkage, anything like that hitting the airbox.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is longer. Down the road, and he wants to do an aftermarket shock and linkage, he'll just base it off of that.
Now, you and I are of the similar age group here where we saw the original Honda frames, which were 250Rs, the four-wheelers. Then they went to their 400EX frames. So you're saying in 04 to 14, they ran this production TRX450 chassis. Do we see similarities between these chassis and the old 250Rs, the old 400EXs?
Well, this was 0405 and then 06 to 14.
Got changed.
That 450, those were the years.
But as far as like geometry and everything is similar?
No, there is changes. A lot of people like the 250R. A lot of people, there's companies out there that build aftermarket chromoly frames that are 250R geometry. A lot of things now are going LTR geometry, like whether it's spindles and front end or it's the whole chassis kind of.
Those steered better, I guess, right? The Suzuki steered well?
Yeah, they less bump steer. They definitely handled better. That's why a lot of people generally go to that. 400EX, there's kind of really no comparison there. I mean, people were building to race, but that was more of a trail bike.
Sure.
But the 250R is still legendary in the fact that a lot of people still use it. It really does work well.
There was a few in the Legends race last month.
Yeah, they're cool for sure. So this is the progression. They probably could have done some things better, but that's what we're up against.
The first thing I'm really noticing, the geometry of the frame and where the engine sits, it appears to be further back.
It is. The CRF engines they're not as long, they're shorter, they're a little bit narrower, and so the weight gets pushed back some. So in with that, a lot of guys, they have issues with weight bias where there's more weight, kind of back here to the back, and it's not putting the weight over the front.
Steering, yeah.
So a lot of guys will either attach another tank that holds weight in the front to add that, or they'll put lead shot in the bumper, keep it discreet. There's ways of doing that to
balance it,
to get the balance. But that is one of the attributes with these two, is that the engine's narrower, the transmission is narrower, so there's less flex in the input and the counter shaft. So there's are some of the benefits too. And obviously the compact design in a dirt bike is beneficial, but it's beneficial here too.
Sure. Now you're going to have a little bit of weight for your battery. Where does that reside? In this subframe somewhere, or is actually?
No, there's a battery box that will be mounted up in the front. So battery box, starter solenoid, that'll all be up in here. Most of the electrical stuff will be up into here. Tried to keep, most of the stuff. A voltage regulator will be bolted off of here, but we're not to that point yet. But
that doesn't weigh that much anyway.
No. The battery's little too, and that doesn't really even, make much difference.
Not a ton of weight, but I guess my point was you're going to put a lot of that stuff forward to help with the counterbalancing to make sure you're level.
You want to try to put what you can to the front.
Was there a reason he chose the 2018 specifically to do the transplant, or was that just a deal he got on the bike?
It was a deal he got. He had asked me what I thought, and I told him that 17 to 20 would be the years to look for. Now, with that being said, 17 came Kickstart, and you could buy at one time, I don't know if you still can, but you were able to buy an electric start kit, because I've done it in the past. But
so the 18s were the first factory e-start.
Yeah, and so I told him to just keep his eyes out for that, and if he could get that, that would be the better way of going. Yeah, we installed and tightened up the chain guide. We have another chain guide that goes back here, a TM Design one, but I'm going to hold off from installing that right yet.
All right, so putting the swing arm back on, we forgot one important part there, this chain guide. We'll get this back on. It's just a simple bolt through, and Mario greased it up this time, make it a little bit easier.
I am a specialist.
What's your special?
Yeah. When you watch these dirt bike mechanics at the Nationals and all this stuff, by torquing something more than what it should be, it will make things stiffer. It makes rigidity. There's definitely a reason why frame bolts especially are torqued.
So you're saying there's a formula to it?
There definitely is. I mean, there's all kinds of things. Thickness of aluminum they use. I mean, granted, we're not at the level of
pro racing.
Yeah, pro racing. And even in the ATV side of things, yes, torque is critical. I don't know how critical they're getting with sizes of things. I'm sure they are to some extent. But when we're talking like high pro motocross, I mean, everything is scrutinized. So you really have to watch, the torque especially.
Well, on that note, great job by Joel Hetrick's mechanic for keeping that bike up front all summer.
Yeah, that's
very impressive to see Joel break the record of not only consecutive wins, but an undefeated season. That's never been done in ATV motocross.
Yeah, he's an animal. It's awesome.
So what are you doing these set to?
These are 20 foot-pounds.
And I mean, we could give these stats to somebody, but who else is doing a custom hybrid build that they're going to need these figures?
Well, I mean, basically I'm using the frame ones, I'm using the torque spec for the TRX, and the engine ones are getting the CRF.
According to the dirt bike engine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need you to hold that for me. We're going to do this front one.
That's not the right one, is it?
That there. This one's going to be 40. All the motor mount, like the lower engine bolt is 40, this is 40, and the two bolts that go into the cylinder head are also 40. Then the pivot bolt's going to be 80. Okay. Now I need you to stand on this side.
Same 17 mil?
No, that's the T-handle.
Oh. Not gonna lie, it's a little weird not seeing any Honda red on a Honda.
Yeah, I know, I agree. Definitely different.
Sacrilegious.
Definitely different. There's always some kind of vibrant color, it seems, that I'm doing.
You mean like fluorescent orange?
Yeah.
Who in their right mind would do fluorescent orange?
Front's tight, bottom's tight, top is tight. Now we're gonna do swing arm.
finally got some Honda red on there, but like Mario said earlier, our rider doesn't seem to think he's going to keep this rear shock set up, so I'm sure that red will change eventually.
Yeah.
Because with his military theme going on, that kind of stands out like a sore thumb.
Well, you definitely know where he is. Well, you would have known where he is anyway with the way that this color combination. That'll be cool.
Well, Mario's tightened up this monoshock here. I think your next step is the airbox on top. We're probably going to call it quits shortly after that piece goes on. Call it a wrap for this video, but be sure to leave us some comments. Tell us what you think of this build. Even let us know what you think of the color combination. I kind of dig it now that I'm seeing the contrast of the green with the tan.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, really leave, if you have questions or, you know, we haven't touched on or we haven't talked about.
Yeah, Mario is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to these Hondas and even some of the Yamaha four-wheelers. So be sure to
we'll definitely
link some questions at him. He can help you out.
The air temperature sensor that is in the air box, that needs a lengthened wire. So I make a plug and play harness for that. So we're not cutting and splicing anything.
That's cool.
And then I do the same thing for the starter solenoid. Because the starter solenoid I used to mount on the front engine engine bracket. But I've wanted to try to keep that out of the crud and clean up this lower front engine area. So by me relocating it to the front, that's cleaned that up. So I've had to make a plug and play wire and harness for that as well. The starter solenoid will be mounted up here, and then there'll be a wire going to that.
Sure, so you try to run everything top side of the frame.
Yeah, trying to clean it up, keep it all discreet. And I'll get into explaining too how the fan's going to be wired to a relay. And I put a sensor on the back of the water pump, which you should be able to zoom in on. That sensor is the same sensor that a TRX450 would have that's screwed into the cylinder head. That sensor will control the ground for the relay to turn the fan on. So you start this thing up, you ride, it gets hot, fan comes on, does its thing, shuts on and off. When you shut the vehicle off, the fan shuts off. So you don't have to worry about killing the battery, turning any switches, anything like that. There's like tabs that it just pushes on.
Kind of a Honda thing. They've been doing that for 40 years.
Yeah, they like it.
Well, it's also anti-vibration, so that computer stays a little more safer with rubber mounts.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have that. Next thing I want to do is I'm just going to pop on the throttle body. I'm not going to tighten it because I need to get to the cable and everything, and I don't have the cable at the moment because it's attached to the handlebars.
Is he going with a thumb or a twist on this?
That'll be a thumb.
It's obviously rider preference. Some guys prefer that twist grip like a dirt bike.
I've always been I can't say that I've always been a thumb throttle because when I ride a motorcycle,
they all have twisties, yeah.
And I don't want a thumb throttle on I don't know, just for whatever reason I've tried that and it's just not my thing.
And you had to weld the front plate on with your inlet there, but
yeah,
it's a really trick looking component because I don't know if you guys can see it on the shelf behind him there. That's your stock airbox, just a plastic piece. It's actually sitting next to the stock gas tank, which you can see Mario made a very nice aluminum one for this build. So some custom aluminum parts going on this Honda.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is that there's a lot of great kits out there that people are doing, you know, again, like 06 and newer, but the kit will supply a boot and like that air
sensor.
Well, the air inlet where the air filter will go. You know, they supply that. They give you engine mounts and this, that, and the other, but they don't really give you this. And most of the kits, they they provide you a bracket that the ECM and the coil attach to, but they're kind of like hanging in here, you know. And the reason for that, I mean, they utilize it here because there's a stock coil mount, which I've removed, but they'll put it there unless you get a custom wiring harness and relocate it up in here. So I tried to hide it, keep it discreet. It fits nicely, plugs in good. There's no issues. Coils mounted the gas tank. Everything else is up in here. Keeps a nice clean look, out of harm's way.
Yeah. Definitely a one-off build, one of one. I don't think you're going to see another one like this with these parts. Obviously, Mario built a lot of this stuff by hand. Like he was showing us earlier, his motor brackets, motor mounts, excuse me.
And being an 05, yeah, I mean, it definitely adds to the complexity and, you know, and the one-offness to it. No, I've enjoyed the project. I knew that when I was going to get into it, it was going to be like uncharted territory in some regard. And, but I like the challenge of it and learning. And
definitely worth filming a project like this.
yeah, we definitely need, you know, it's funny. I get caught up in watching other people's stuff and I think everything's cool. And then I think I'm not doing anything cool. So that's why I don't ever want to do it. But
what we're doing with this is cool.
Yeah, this is, you know, I'm glad people enjoy it. And I really hope that we get some comments on what people want to see and or questions to answer. Because, you know, I mean, I'm always looking for information. I don't know it all. I'm always looking for information. I hope I can help somebody with information.
I know, it's a shame I even went to school because you can learn so much on YouTube today. All right, so Mario and I are just buttoning up the last few for this part of our video series. We're gonna keep this one maybe a 3-4-parter.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how things progress, but the next one will be wiring harness, fuel tank, radiator, battery box, probably wire up the fan relay, that kind of stuff. It may or may not run, not sure yet. Probably put the air filter on. We'll have to see. And then probably part 3 will be front end, rear axle.
Make it a roller.
Make it a roller, possible plastics.
If the rider has all that ready for us.
Yeah, we're waiting on a few things.
So yeah, part 2, it'll be a lot of the working components to get it ready to run. And then part 3, we'll try to actually get it rolling and running. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We mentioned that before. As always, guys, we appreciate you watching these builds. They're a lot of fun for us. We enjoy making these videos for you guys. So hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on part 2. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.